All right. Just gonna wait for some people to hopefully come in before officially starting. Um, don't assume that that title means other conversations won't be uh, accepted or acceptable. Um, I just feel as though having a topic might keep me more on track instead of just randomly talking about things. Um, so, I've mentioned uh, doing another channel. This one's going to be a collaboration, collab channel. Uh, which hopefully will see content at least once a week. That's my hope. Uh, was gonna do it through Zoom, but for the time being, I'm probably just gonna do streams on YouTube once a week. Uh, Probably on the weekends. Um, for two reasons. One, I think the content may be better if I wasn't doing it by myself. It might give way to more engaging conversations. Hello there. Is it EdgeWiki and Light Knights? Um, do consider leaving a like. Um, but yeah, uh, and since this channel is pretty much just a mismatch of things, there's no real direction here. I feel like the damage has already been done. Uh, if I'm really gonna try to grow, I need to start anew. Uh, Not going to abandon this channel, but it started off with me doing One Piece videos. Then I did some things about politics, and then it was kind of just random streams, just chatting about stuff. And now um it's kind of gotten back to what it originally was, but not really. Um so I'm unsure as what to do, and I feel like if I have a channel where it's not just me involved, I can get more input from those who are part of it. Oh, I'm definitely not quitting. But I'm gonna have a second channel uh, that's not really gonna be mine. I mean, it will be mine, but the purpose is to hopefully have group streams, um, get people on, uh, figure out what someone might be interested in. For example, I don't know if this can work because I think in order to be on streams, I don't know if a person who's already able to stream can just invite anyone they want to a stream. But my hope for the new channel is to bring basically anybody who's showing an interest in a particular topic to be in that stream and to have a discussion with me, a debate that we have differing opinions on. Um, And I would love to at least have 3 people. Now, it's going to be a joint channel between me and someone else, but we have made it clear during our conversations that we don't really want this to be our channel. We're the ones running it, but we want it to be a channel for everyone. Like, when we do a discussion, we want to gauge interest, and then those that are interested, we want to give them a chance to speak with us and give their thoughts on things regarding that topic. Um, Now, the name I have in mind for the channel is United We Think, but that may change because I feel as though United We Think kind of suggests that it's a political channel, and I want it to be discussions about anything. I want to steer clear of current events as much as possible, at least for a good while, before getting back into the more serious things. And also, again, base it off of how everybody's feeling. So that's my plan. Um, Probably do a stream with the person that is working on this channel with me. Get his name out there, so people can kind of get to know him. Hopefully there will be a decent turnout when I do have that stream. This is and another reason for this is, let's say that things don't work out on this one. I don't continue to see growth. I, continue to not have a direction for where this is going. Then I can kind of go on a hiatus here and focus more on the other channel if there's a decent amount of growth. And hopefully it'll bounce back, So if there was a decent amount of growth on the other channel, like let's say we start the new channel and in time it gets to 1,000 subs. Well, then hopefully at least a portion of those subs would want to come here. And if not, then it's whatever. I'm very well aware of the fact that this channel is not. Maybe I'm just not being patient enough, but I do truly feel as though I haven't had a strong sense of where this channel should be going. What kind of content needs to be the focus? I know very little about manipulating the algorithm and that sort of thing. I know that if you approach different topics that don't have anything to do with what you've discussed in the past or done in the past, it can negatively impact it. I'm sure my putting One Piece in the title here is not going to help me in any way, shape, or form. And I'm not even sure if this channel, when we do it, won't be negatively impacted as well, because we would like to talk pretty much about any topic. Nothing is off limits, so long as we have at least 3 people for each stream that we do on it. And build a little group, if you will. Also, if you could consider giving a like. Maybe we can get this up to 4 likes. And consider sharing the stream too. So I don't know if anyone's actually going to care about One Piece in any way, shape, or form. I may not go into that despite the title of the stream. I kind of wanted to talk about it, but I also realized that what I want to talk about is a major spoiler. So maybe instead, we could talk about something that's manga and anime adjacent, but also incorporates other forms of fiction. And that is something that I've believed for a long time, and I know I'm not the only one who believes this. That good writing does not always mean that it will be entertaining for everyone. It may be entertaining for a majority of people, but there's a good chance that there's at least a few people or a minority of people who don't care for it. And you might be thinking, well, no, duh, of course that's the case. But, you see, I say this as somebody who tends to not like things that are universally praised. Now, that being said, there's a lot of things that I like which are universally praised. But there's also a lot that I don't. For example, Demon Slayer. I never bothered with it. As soon as I heard the premise, saw the art style, it was an instant no-go for me. Now, there have been series that I've tried to get into. Well, actually, only one really comes to mind, because it was created by the same person who made my favorite anime series ever. And I say anime series because I have not actually read the manga, and that's Togashi, the man who created Yu Yu Hakusho and Hunter x Hunter. As somebody who grew up with Yu Yu Hakusho, I have a huge attachment to that series. It's easily one of my top 5 series, period. And that goes for any kind of fiction, whether it's anime, manga, whether it's animated series in general, or fiction in general. And at some point, knowing that Hunter x Hunter was by the same person, because for a long time, I had no idea who created Hunter x Hunter. I guess I just didn't pay attention to the credits when it would say his name. Or because I didn't really look for that. I just never put 2 and 2 together. And so when I found out that Hunter x Hunter was by the same person that created Yu Yu Hakusho, I figured I need to check this out. And I kind of lost interest very early on. And this is an example of a series that is very well made, well written, but I just didn't care for it. Another example, which is not anime or manga, is Stranger Things. That's another one I don't care for. And I stuck with Stranger Things for about 3 seasons and then ultimately decided I was done with it. Now, there's always something that keeps me watching, even if I don't particularly care for a series. There's at least one thing that I like enough about it to keep me going. In the case of Stranger Things, it was more like two things. My favorite character, the sheriff. Hi, there's Kylie Smith. Um, and 11. My second favorite. Also, thank you so much for those likes. Hoping to get that up to 4. But everything else, I didn't really care for. I understand now that Stranger Things was not supposed to be a horror series in the strictest sense, but it feels like it was trying to go for that vibe at some point, and the more goofy moments of it kinda hurt it for me. I guess I wanted to be scared. I wanted to be unnerved. And there were instances where that occurred, but overall, no. And it just, for me personally, just got a little bit too silly. Um, and that's ultimately why I stopped with season 3, is because at the end of season 3, you had that whole never-ending story sing-along thing with Dustin. And it's because of scenes like that where I just decided, yeah, I need to be done with this series. And I haven't watched it since. I'm surprised to see that they're even still doing season 5, because it's been how many years since the previous season? Or is it season 5 part 2? I can't remember. It's been what, like 3 years? So at this point, I'm kind of wondering, while they're getting up there, they're like in their late teens, mid-teens. Heck, one or two of them might even already be 20 years old at this point. I'm not sure how old Finn Wolfhard is, and I don't know the ages of the actors. So it kind of seems like, yeah, it's a little too late. They're not going to be convincing as teenagers anymore like they used to. They're in the old guard at this point. Along with what was his name, Steve, and Bill. So, those are pretty much my thoughts on that. And getting back to Hunter x Hunter for a little bit. With Hunter x Hunter, I appreciate and love the concept of that world, where you have these elites that are called hunters, and they pretty much can do whatever they want with no legal recourse. Now, I'm sure there are hard no's for what they can't do, but for the most part, they can pretty much do whatever they want. And they have to, as hunters, hunt something. Or go after something. So, and then I also really like the Nen system and how it is conceptually, but I don't care for the way in which it's structured. It's a little too complicated for me. And that doesn't mean that I don't care for complicated plots, but a power system that has too many rules, for me, is just, it's too much. For me personally. And yes, I recognize that, those rules are in place so that certain characters' abilities won't be too broken. I get that. But it becomes more of like a chess match during the fights than an actual fight. And I don't know. Blame this on the fact that I'm a Bleach fan, to some extent at least. And in that series, it usually starts off with a sword fight, and only when things get tough will they unleash Shikai, and if things get really tough, they'll unleash Bankai. Maybe I would have preferred Hunter x Hunter if it was more like they get in a hand-to-hand fight, or they use some kind of a weapon to fight first, and only when circumstances require it will they use their nen, their specific nen ability, Hatsu. But certain fighters will just bust that out right away. Or they're just shown fighting opponents that the basics won't do anything against. So that's my, that's how I feel about Hunter x Hunter. But I also really enjoy. I should get into this. I shouldn't just jump to the villains right away. I should mention the characters in general. I don't care for Gon at all. I understand why he's the main character. I'm not trying to say that there's anything objectively wrong with him, but personal taste-wise, if I had been Togashi, I would have made Killua the main character. Literally, full stop. And yes, I understand that it's a more unique series where there's no necessarily true main protagonist. They all get their time to shine, unlike Naruto, Bleach, and One Piece. It kind of takes a slight Game of Thrones approach to where you'll spend a long time not even dealing with Gon, and then you'll see Kurapika. Is that how you pronounce it, Kurapika? That's how I believe it's pronounced. But if I had to choose a true main character, I would have gone with Killua. I still think it fits Hunter x Hunter as a name. I think it even fits better because a Hunter x Hunter, even though I know this isn't their meaning behind the title, suggests a hunter that hunts. Killua comes from a family of assassins, and he wants to be a hunter. Well, he is a hunter. He would be a hunter that hunts, so a hunter. I also find his personal backstory to be more intriguing than Gon's, and I find his power to also be more befitting of a main protagonist. Because main protagonists tend to have a simple ability that in many cases grows over time, but it's not complicated. Yes, I know that Gon's isn't complicated either, but he's also really not much of a fighter. And to me, having that power and not using it often, at that point, why did you give him an offensive ability in the first place? Why didn't you just make it purely defensive? It doesn't make sense to me. But yeah, love his backstory. I also feel as though that would make one of the main villains a more personal threat, or more personal to Killua, because I don't know if I should spoil this, but no, this isn't really a spoiler. It's pretty much revealed at the very beginning of the series. Illumi is friends with, is it Hisoka? I think they're friends. And he was obviously a member of the Phantom Troop. And so in that way, there's kind of a connection. I wouldn't be surprised if Illumi is somewhat chummy with other members of the Phantom Troop, and I'm just not remembering that. But yeah, so that's that whole thing. And yeah, I know there's the whole thing with, the Chimera Ants. There's no real connection with them. But, to me, the overarching villains of that series, the main villains of that series, have always been the Phantom Troop. Because they remain as a persistent focus. Members might be defeated, but the spider still lives. And will continue to live until all the members are taken down. I assume by Kurapika, although in my opinion, that even though that's of course that's how it's gonna go. I think it would honestly be better if that didn't happen. If he tries to use his Nen in a fight, and because of how he's used it so often, it just takes his toll on him, and he collapses and can't use it anymore because he's no longer around. And it would kind of be like he's consumed by vengeance. Doesn't mean that it's not necessarily justified, but Togashi could maybe learn from, I don't want to say Kishimoto's mistake with Sasuke, but the thing with Kurapika is able to form positive relationships. He's able to make friends. He's able to, he's not morally bankrupt like Sasuke is. He is more of a good person. That's not to say that Sasuke is not a good person, but Sasuke was pretty much always bred for fighting and, being a ninja. Kurapika, he only did that as a means to an end, to get rid of this organization who got rid of his clan. So for me personally, it would be great if Kurapika could just not succeed. Maybe someone steps in and does it for him. He gets really angry, but then realizes, my vengeance, my anger, my hate is consuming me, and it will end me and potentially put the lives of those close to me in danger if I don't stop this. I would love to see that for his character. Again, highly doubt that's going to happen. And then, I guess reserve the Phantom Troop for others. So that's pretty much how I feel about Hunter x Hunter. And then there's other things, there's other series, there's other things that are popular which I don't care for. I mentioned Demon Slayer. I mentioned Hunter x Hunter to some degree, although as you can tell, there are characters that I do like from that series. So I don't know what that makes me. I can't necessarily claim to be a fan because there is so much about it I don't like, but there's much more that I like about it than I do when it comes to something like Demon Slayer. And then you have Bleach, where I don't care for the main cast at all, but I love a lot of the captains. One of the main villains I really like. And even one of the secondary villains, if you want to call him that, I also care for. So, and I love the Zanpakuto system and all that stuff. So I guess I'm more of a Bleach fan, but when you don't care for the main character and, the four mains, with the exception of Uryu, can you really call yourself a fan? Because it's ultimately Ichigo's story. And if you don't like him, how are you a fan? It's not like with One Piece where at some point in time, he did become my favorite. And I always liked him. So I was eager to follow his story and see him progress. And I wasn't just waiting for side characters to be a focus again so that I wouldn't have to see him as often, or, they could kind of distract me from that. It's kind of true with Naruto. When it came to Naruto, Sasuke was my number one. Didn't remain that way. Eventually, he really fell off. But for a time, he was my favorite. And Naruto just really annoyed me. Uh, so, can I really even say that I was ever a fan of Naruto when it's his series, it's his story, even though Sasuke is a main character in that story? So that's, that's that whole thing. Uh, I don't want to. I'm gonna pretty much stop it there with that whole thing because I don't want to come across as somebody who's just talking about the things that he dislikes and be overly negative. I was just kind of trying to prove a point. Uh, on the flip side, there are things that people haven't cared for, which I do like. Man of Steel. Really like that movie. Not going to say that it doesn't have its problems, but the problems that people mostly have with it, I don't. I don't have a problem with Zod's fate. I don't have a problem with how Superman dealt with that. Because to me, it's a movie, and movies are not supposed to do things the way comics do, otherwise, why make a movie? Do you want an exact adaptation? Or do you want the character to become who they are in the comics, but through different circumstances? And when people make a big deal about what happened to Zod, I always try to point out, did you forget that the man was legit in tears after having done that? Pounded his fist on the ground in anger about having to do that? You make it seem like Superman smiled after he took down Zod. So he was still the compassionate, wanting to do better hero that Superman has always been. And the never, taking someone down that way again could have been born from what happens to Zod. I can understand the criticism. I can understand people saying, I didn't like him doing that. To me, it doesn't feel true to the character. But you take creative liberties with adaptations. And there's even creative liberties that have been taken with adaptations that I don't care for. So I get it, but I personally found it to be a little too much of... I found it confusing how people would slate that as their main reason for not liking Man of Steel. And yes, I understand the criticism that it was, it was too depressing. It didn't seem cheery enough. That I can agree with to some extent. Unfortunately, it's probably a result of Zack Snyder being in charge. But Henry Cavill, or Cavill, however you pronounce it, to me, when I saw him, I felt as though he truly was Superman, more than any other actor before him. He had the look, he had the aura about him. He, to me, was as much Superman as Robert Downey Jr. is Tony Stark / Iron Man. To me, he was the true live-action Superman. And I'm not going to talk about the new movie because I haven't seen it and I don't plan to see it. And hopefully no one will get angry about the fact that that's the case. But I guess I can speak somewhat on that. I'm not going to bother with the new Superman movie because, one, I'm still really frustrated with the fact that Cavill never got to come back. He didn't get a Superman sequel. And to me, that would be like making a new Iron Man movie with a new actor playing Tony Stark. It's like, no, why wouldn't you just bring Robert Downey Jr. back? Um, so there's that. And the other reason is, and I recognize they're doing the multiverse stuff and all this, or they're doing this whole, hey, it's going to be a big thing now. I prefer a more personal story. If you're going to do a Superman movie, please don't have other superheroes show up unless they are directly connected to him, like Supergirl. If you had to have another hero show up, why not Supergirl? Why Hawkgirl, Green Lantern, and I feel like I saw 5 other superheroes. At that point, it just seems like you're trying to turn a Superman movie into Justice League. And I'm sorry, but I'm just not down for that. Because when you would finally do a Justice League movie, it's no longer special. Because those characters appeared in someone else's movie, and it's not focused on them personally 100%. Which is also the reason why I don't bother with MCU anymore. Because Doctor Strange 2 was a team-up. Wasn't really his film. And yeah, I know someone would say, well, what about, X-Men? What about the Fantastic Four? Those are team-ups. True. But isn't it interesting how, because they are team-ups, they would never be as interested in throwing other heroes in there that aren't related to those teams directly. But they will if a movie was going to be made for a solo hero. It's a bit of a hypocrisy, in my opinion. So, that's where I stand with the new Superman movie. What else can be said? I'm kind of running out of things to say here, which is why I'm probably gonna end it as soon as that's the case, which will probably be very soon. Especially since there's pretty much no interaction in the chat, and I don't just want to be talking with myself for an hour. So, given that fact, I think I'm gonna end it here. I want to thank everyone for leaving a like. Any possible new subscribers, although I doubt there are any. To those who are watching after the fact, consider leaving a like, commenting, subscribing, sharing, which would help a lot. And until the next one, which may be the stream sort of advertising, if you will, the new channel that's going to be made and doing a first episode. Take care, and I'll see you in the next one. Later.